Hey everybody, this video is called The Next King Abijah, and tonight we continue our pass-through study here in the book of 2 Chronicles, where we're going to be looking at Abijah succeeding Rehoboam's reign. So chapter 13 verses 1 through 3, in the succession of Judah's kings, we're going to see Abijah, also known as Abijam, was next in between the years 913 and 911 BC, as found in 1 Kings 15 verses 1 through 8. And it was the disobedient nature of Abijah's reign is mentioned with chapter 16 verse 3 coming up, showing that he's going to create a faithless treaty with Syria. And so let's read verses 1 through 3. 2 Chronicles 13, it says, "In the 18th year of King Jeroboam, Abijah became king over Judah. He reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Michkeiah, the daughter of Uriah of Gibeah. And there was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. Abijah set the battle in order with an army of valiant warriors, 400,000 chosen men. Jeroboam also drew up in battle formation against him with 800,000 choice men, mighty men of valor." So the chronicler, he's kind of your more positive focus type guy. He gives a positive side of Abijah's reign, while when you look at the writer of the Kings, he focuses on the negative side. In the chronicler, he's given more details than what we see in Kings author on the drawing of these battle lines, Abijah's speech and the battle itself and the outcome. In both armies, they were set for civil war, as Judah is greatly outnumbered, displaying the power of God at work on behalf of faithful Judah. In verse 4 through 12 it says, "Then Abijah stood at Mount Zemaraim, which is in the mountains of Ephraim, and said, 'Hear me, Jeroboam and all Israel. Should you not know that the Lord God of Israel gave the dominion over Israel to David forever, to him and his sons, by covenant of salt? Yet Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the servant of Solomon, the son of David, rose up and rebelled against his Lord. Then worthless rogues gathered to him and strengthened themselves against Rehoboam the son of Solomon, when Rehoboam was young and inexperienced and could not withstand them. And now you think to withstand the kingdom of the Lord, which is in the hand of the sons of David, and you are a great multitude, and with you are the gold calves, which Jeroboam made for you as gods? Have you not cast out the priests of the Lord, the sons of Aaron and the Levites, and made for yourselves priests, like the priests of the other lands, so that whoever comes to consecrate himself with a young bull and 7 rams may be a priest of things that are not gods? But as for us, the Lord is our God, and we have not forsaken him, and the priests who minister to the Lord are the sons of Aaron, and the Levites attend to their duties. And they burn to the Lord every morning and every evening burnt sacrifices and sweet incense. They also set the showbread in order on the pure gold table and the lampstand of gold with its lamps to burn every evening. For we keep the command of the Lord our God, but you have forsaken him. Now look, God himself is with us as our head, and his priests with sounding trumpets to sound the alarm against you. O children of Israel, do not fight against the Lord God of your fathers, for you should not prosper." So Mount Jeremiah, however you say it, Old Testament names once again, kicking my butt, is unknown location, but it's believed to be near Bethel inside Israel's territory. And Abijah's speech against the northern kingdom makes clear that David's dynasty is approved by God and the temple worship in Jerusalem is established by God. And in Leviticus 2:13, salt is associated with the Mosaic covenant sacrifices. Numbers 18:19, the priestly covenant. And the preservative quality of salt represents the loyalty and intended in keeping the covenant. And Jeroboam is covered in 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 26 through 40, and 2 Chronicles chapter 10, which we just looked at a few days back. And we see that he's the first king of the northern kingdom called Israel. And in verse 7, young is 41 years old. So if you are 41 and under, you can consider yourself young, I guess. Abijah says Rehoboam is inexperienced. And Judah is God's nation, since the king is in the line of David. And the chronicler, he already mentioned the defection of the Levites that we saw last week and back in chapter 11. And Abijah, he confessed a national commitment to pure worship and therefore confidence in God's favor in battle. In Abijah, he asserts that God is with Judah and that the presence of God with Judah's army to secure victory. In verse 13 and 14, it says, "But Jeroboam caused an ambush to go around behind them. So they were in front of Judah, and the ambush was behind them. And when Judah looked around, to their surprise, the battle line was at both front and rear, and they cried out to the Lord, and the priests sounded the trumpets." So Jeroboam, he conducted a dishonorable tactic here as he ambushed while they were negotiating before the battle. Dirty. But Solomon, he spoke of praying to God in battle in his dedicative type prayer. And prayer appears as the decisive factor in this battle. In verse 15 through 19 says, "Then the men of Judah gave a shout, and as the men of Judah shouted, it happened that God struck Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. And the children of Israel fled before Judah, and God delivered them into their hand. Then Abijah and his people struck them with great slaughter, so 500,000 choice men of Israel fell slain. Thus the children of Israel were subdued at that time, and the children of Judah prevailed, because they relied on the Lord God of their fathers. And Abijah pursued Jeroboam and took cities from him, Bethel with its villages, Jeshanah with its villages, and Ephraim with its villages." So, verses 15 through 19. In verse 15, it speaks of the northern kingdom in the context. In all Israel, what God did is unknown, as Judah was saved by divine intervention. And the army of Israel began to flee. And we see that Jeroboam outnumbered Abijah 2-1. But verse 20 through 22 says, "So Jeroboam did not recover strength again in the days of Abijah, and the Lord struck him and he died. But Abijah grew mighty, married 14 wives, and begot 22 sons and 16 daughters. Now the rest of the acts of Abijah, his ways and his sayings, are written in the annals of the prophet Iddo." So again, we see that God acted in a manner not described to end the life of the wicked ruler in 910 BC. And Jeroboam, he never recovers from this defeat, while Abijah grows stronger and he has many children, and we see he's crazy enough to have many wives as well. And Iddo was mentioned back in chapter 9, verse 29, and his story or record is another source that was used by the chronicler. And this ended the ongoing threat from Israel against Judah. And the profile of Abijah in 1 Kings 15 is overwhelmingly negative. He walked in the sins of his father, and his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God as the heart of his father David was in 1 Kings 15:3. And we see that the chronicler here says nothing good or bad overall about the overall reign of Abijah. And the chronicler, he wanted to emphasize the good that happened under the reign of Abijah, the great deliverance that came upon Judah when he relied on God. And he wanted to display that a bad man can be shown grace when he relies on the Lord. And this was to be an encouragement to the returned exiles to whom the chronicler first wrote. So to wrap up today's chapter, the chronicler today shows us that King Abijah speaks to King Jeroboam, and the two armies gather for a civil war. And we see Abijah's appeal to Jeroboam and the army of Israel. We see the covenant of salt, which was a promise that God made to David, draws interest to me, because we don't see salt all the time in the Bible, and we think of Jesus' words of being the salt of the earth. And the salt, it was meant to be a serious covenant because it was sealed by sacrifice. It was meant to be a pure covenant. And salt, it stays pure as a chemical compound. And it was an enduring covenant. Salt makes things preserve and endure. If you eat frozen TV dinners, guess what? There's a lot of sodium in them to keep them, not healthy. They're very bad for you. You're only supposed to get like 2,000 milligrams of salt a day. And in America, we probably do over 2,000 milligrams of salt a day with our food supply. But salt was also a valuable covenant. And salt at this time was also expensive. I know it might not be as expensive today. You could probably go buy a little box for $1 or $2 down at the store here in the United States. I know Costco has like big salt shakers type plastic bottles for like a couple bucks as well. Another nugget that you should use or gain out of this is we see God with us is used. And we see back in Numbers chapter 14:9, God with us. And we see God with us throughout the Bible. The sons of Korah in the Psalms speaking on God being the refuge of his people, stated in Psalm 46 verse 7, the Lord of hosts is with us. One of our most popular ones that we're going to hear in just about 4 or 5 months from now, Isaiah 7:14. The prophet Isaiah stated, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and she will call him Emmanuel, in Isaiah 7:14. Meaning God with us. So I'm one step ahead of Jeff Durbin once again this year, talking these passages. Just kidding. I believe he hit on Isaiah 9 verse 6 and 7 probably in January. But we're going to look next at Matthew chapter 1 verse 22. Matthew 1:22 and 23. So all this was done that it might be fulfilled in which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is translated God with us. So Jesus is the fulfilled eternal God with us. And we see the chronicler covers Jeroboam's ambush, and the victory for Judah takes place. And we see that the chronicler, he ends the chapter with a summary of the reign of Abijah. And that's going to wrap up tonight's video. We'll see you again next to be announced, where we're going to be looking next at the reign of Asa. So I hope you have a great rest of your evening ahead. God bless, and we'll see you next time.